Pittsburgh surprised everybody last year by winning the ACC Coastal. But can they do it again? Find out here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone saw Pittsburgh winning the ACC Coastal last year, especially not after starting the season 3-4. But the Panthers rattled off 4 straight victories before dropping their final 3, including a 24-3 loss to Miami, a blowout to Clemson in the ACC title game, and a devastating 1-point loss to Stanford in their bowl game. But this year, Pat Narduzzi returns just 11 starters, including 5 on the offensive side of the ball, but the key playmaker is going to be quarterback Kenny Pickett. A lot of the success of Pittsburgh will rely on how well Kenny Pickett does in this offense. Last year, he was just mediocre, throwing for a little over 1,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He's going to have to pick up a lot of slack too, especially after losing their top 2 rushers, both 1,000-yard rushers, in Qadree Ollison and Darrin. Luckily for Pickett, though, he returned his top 2 wide receivers in Taysir Mack and Maurice French, so hopefully that passing game will get a little bit going, especially early on in the season. The defense is going to be the strength for Pittsburgh without a doubt. That's probably what's going to keep them in most of these games, or hopefully keep them in most of these games. They returned 6 total starters on that side of the ball, including Damar Hamlin and Dane Jackson, who will be leading the secondary that just allowed 209 passing yards per game last year. So not bad numbers in 2018. Can they improve on them in 2019? They open up against a tough game against Virginia in Week 1. They kicked things right out of the gate in ACC conference play, and Pittsburgh last year got the best of the Cavaliers. And that pretty much is what propelled Pittsburgh into the ACC title game, because Virginia and Pittsburgh were pretty neck and neck down the stretch. Pittsburgh got the edge there, rattled off a few extra wins, and clinched their spot in the ACC title game. This year, it's going to be the other way around. Virginia is going to get the best of the Panthers because the Cavaliers are the real deal. They bring back Bryce Perkins at quarterback, over 2,600 yards through the air, almost 1,000 yards rushing on the ground, and one of the best defenses, not just in the ACC, but in the entire nation. Virginia is absolutely the real deal, and even though Pittsburgh hosts this game, they will fall to the Cavaliers to start off the season 0-1. The problem for Pittsburgh this year is how difficult the schedule is. Even their non-conference games are difficult for the Panthers. And we start here in Week 2 against Ohio, a team that I do believe Pittsburgh will take care of, but is not a surefire victory. Ohio returns one of the better quarterbacks in the MAC, and Nathan Rourke, maybe even one of the better quarterbacks in the group of 5. So Pittsburgh cannot afford to take this for granted. This secondary is going to have to step up big in this game, but I do think they get the best of Ohio in this one. They're 1-1. Then they go on the road to Penn State, a team that they have been blown out by the past 2 years since their last meeting in 2016 when Pittsburgh upset them. They've been outscored 84-20 the past 2 years against the Nittany Lions. And I don't think they're going to win again this year in 2019. I think it could be pretty bad once again. Even though Penn State has been struggling on the recruiting trail, even though they lose Miles Sanders, even though they lose Trace McSorley, this Penn State team is still a legitimate contender in the Big Ten. It's on the road. Pittsburgh is not going to have enough to upset the Nittany Lions. They are 1-2. Unfortunately, I had them going 1-3 with a loss to Central Florida, and people will criticize me, I'm sure, for this pick, but here's the thing. Last year, Pittsburgh lost 45-14 on the road to Central Florida. And I know last year Mackenzie Milton was healthy. He will not be playing for the Knights this year. But they bring in a solid transfer quarterback in Brandon Wimbush. They still have Adrian Killens at the running back position. A lot of their wide receivers come back. 8 total starters offensively and 5 starters on the defensive side of the ball. This will be a legitimate test for this Pittsburgh defense. I do think this game will be closer than the 45-14 victory for UCF last year. But Pittsburgh's not going to have enough to beat them. UCF has proven time and time again they are not afraid to play anybody. No matter how big the team is or how small the team is, no matter the stake or the setting, UCF is pretty fearless. And once again, I expect big things out of Josh Heupel and his squad down in Central Florida. They're going to come on the road and get a win over a Pittsburgh team that I think early on could struggle offensively. They do get a win over Delaware. I forgot to put the automatic W there. So they're 2-3 going into Duke, and now they'll finally get into the bulk of ACC play. Last year, Pittsburgh beat Duke by 9 points, and that game was, of course, being held in Pittsburgh. But this year, Duke's a little bit different. They lose Daniel Jones, their star quarterback. Quentin Harris is going to step in to fill in some big shoes. Now, Quentin Harris did have playing experience last year. It's not like he's just being thrown out there and hoping for the best. Daniel Jones was injured early on last year, and Quentin Harris came in and did a pretty phenomenal job. David Cutcliffe knows how to coach up a quarterback, knows how to coach an offense, and I would expect big things out of him in 2019. The strength for Duke will be the defense. That's why this game can be very low scoring, because I believe Pittsburgh's strength will be their defense. But this game is on the road at Duke. By October 5th, I think Quentin Harris has worked some things out, and I think Pittsburgh falls on the road to the Blue Devils. They get a bye week going into a game against Syracuse, a game that Pittsburgh won last year at home in Pittsburgh. They beat the Orange, a 10-win team last year, in overtime, and that was a game that Syracuse probably should not have lost. But I think they were hungover after a devastating loss to Clemson, a game they should have won on the road. Fell, I believe it was 27-23. But this time it's on the road. Syracuse returns a lot of stars on both sides of the ball, and even though they lost Eric Dungy, which is why everybody believes Syracuse is going to fail this year, they bring in Tommy DeVito. And he is a legit quarterback. He is the real deal. And I think he's going to get the job done for the Syracuse Orange, winning 8 or 9 more games in 2019. This game's on the road against the Carrier Dome. Syracuse certainly out for revenge. They're going to lose this game. Pittsburgh will. Once again, they're going to be dropping their second straight after that win over Delaware. And remember, they had a slow start last year. They were 3-4. So a slow start this year. Maybe they can rattle off a couple wins, but the schedule, unfortunately, does not get any easier. They host Miami. And if you remember the last time Miami came to Pittsburgh, Miami was ranked number 2 in the country. They were college football playoff contenders. People thought they maybe could beat Clemson in the ACC title game. And Pittsburgh upset Miami, I believe it was by 10 points. It wasn't like it was a narrow upset. They took easy care. They dismantled Miami before the Hurricanes then fell in the ACC title game and then fell in the Orange Bowl and really have not been the same ever since. So this is an opportunity, I think, to pull off another major upset, because this is a Miami team led by Manny Diaz that is going to have another solid quarterback in Tate Martell. They're bringing that swagger back, and they are legit contenders in the Coastal despite a disappointing year last year. But Miami is still going to boast one of the best defenses in the entire nation. They're going to remember what happened last time here. I know they got their revenge last year back in Miami, but this Miami team is not going to struggle as much like the Mark Richt Miami did. I think Miami gets another key win on the road against Pittsburgh, and the Panthers fall to the Hurricanes. Their best chance here, sitting here with 2 wins, of course, now they have to finish the year undefeated. They have to win their final 4 games just to make a bowl game. And I know a lot of this doesn't sound possible. A lot of this doesn't sound like it's going to happen, but it's extremely possible with the amount of talent Pittsburgh returns. They're not returning that much. They might have some struggles early on, and this schedule, like I said, is so tough. They go on the road against Georgia Tech, a team that has Jeff Collins now, a brand new head coach, who is going to be going from that option offense to the pro-style offense, something that we haven't seen out of Georgia Tech. This game is on the road. Last year, Pittsburgh won by just 5 points. And that was obviously with a better Georgia Tech team who still ran the offense. It was still being led by Paul Johnson. But Georgia Tech is coming off a bye in this game. Pittsburgh will have lost 3 straight games. And I think by November 2nd, Georgia Tech isn't going to be like the next Clemson or Alabama or anything, but that pro-style offense is going to be looking pretty good. I think they're going to be making some strides here. People think Georgia Tech might win just 2 or 3 games. That's not going to be the case. Jeff Collins is going to make some progress in year 1, and they're going to beat Pittsburgh at home. The Panthers fall yet again. So once again, they are now out of bowl consideration. They could win their final 3 and finish 5-7, much like they did just a few years ago. Pat Narduzzi's team usually finished strong towards the end of the year. Coming off a bye week, I do think they defeat North Carolina to get their 3rd win of the season. I think the Tar Heels, led by Mack Brown, are going to have a pretty major struggle in 2019, and that's not what Tar Heel fans want to hear. I think they went 3-9 2 years ago. They went 2-9 last year, and they were competitive last year, no doubt in my mind. They were very competitive for a 2-9 team. They were probably the best 2-9 team out there because a lot of their losses came by just 1 possession. But Pittsburgh will be rested. They will be back home. And overall, talent-wise and consistency-wise, they have the edge over the Tar Heels. They get a win. Back on the road, though, against Virginia Tech. Last year, Pittsburgh annihilated Virginia Tech, winning by 30 points. They had 492 rushing yards combined with Qadree Ollison and Darrin Hall. But that's not going to be the case this year. First off, it is on the road. Second off, Virginia Tech returns 10 starters on the defensive side of the ball. That is a big-time negative for Pittsburgh, who loses those top 2 rushers that did so well last year in an offense that could struggle this year with just 5 returning starters. So with this Virginia Tech team returning that many starters on defense and having an experienced quarterback in Ryan Willis, I don't think that Pittsburgh is going to be able to go on the road and replicate the success that they had last year in Pittsburgh. The Hokies are a legitimate contender in the Coastal Division this year, and Pittsburgh will fall to Virginia Tech. And they close out the year with a game back at home against Boston College. They only have 3 wins on the year. Will they be motivated to win this game? They haven't met the Eagles since 2014, but I do believe Pittsburgh closes out the season with a win over Boston College. They will have a solid offense this year led by Anthony Brown and A.J. Dillon, and this is where the defense is going to have to step up to shut down such a dangerous running back in A.J. Dillon, one of the best in the ACC. But with this game being at home, trying to close out the year, a couple of years ago, that game against Miami meant nothing to Pittsburgh, but they wanted to play spoiler. Boston College, of course, is not going to be the number 2 team in the country or anywhere near it at the end of the season, but it's Pittsburgh and Pat Narduzzi never just roll over and just give up. They will get a win to close out the season over Boston College, and that will give them a 4-8 record on the year. And I know in years past, I have not been very high on Pittsburgh. I know people will criticize this prediction and they will look at it and say it's impossible. And if you look at the schedule, guys, maybe they can get a win against Georgia Tech. Maybe they do beat Central Florida at home. But outside of that, or maybe they beat Duke. But outside of that, I don't see this Pittsburgh team winning any more than maybe 6 games. I think 4-8 is the most realistic possibility right now because, like I said, this whole season will rely on how well Kenny Pickett plays. And after what I saw last year, I don't have a lot of faith in their quarterback play. The defense returns the most starters out of the 2 sides. They're going to be a key in this season too. But 4-8, I think, is what's going to happen to the Pittsburgh Panthers in 2019. But maybe Pat Narduzzi can surprise all of us once again like he does the past few years, like he has the past few years. So guys, as always, thank you for watching us here. Go check us out on Twitter at Gridiron Expert, on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Sign up for our newsletter, sign up for our extra videos, and sign up for our expert picks, where you will receive every single one of our spread picks for the 2019 season for a low one-time fee. That is 150 plus spread picks for 2019, including the postseason, and I promise you, you're not going to want to miss out on that. As always, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time here on The Gridiron Expert.